Hey guys, and welcome to the lecture. This is the first lecture where we're going to cover how classes and a bit of object-oriented programming works in Python. Python has been an object-oriented language since it existed. Here, we're not going to work extensively on the details of object-oriented programming, so I've included a separate file in the lecture resources with some terminology to bring you up to speed. Continuing from here, I'm going to assume you've read over or know the material of the attached resource document. So let's get on to covering how to create a class. The class is going to be a prototype from which we create separate object instances. The class keyword is used to create a new class definition. Here, we'll type employee : Normally, the classes that a class inherits from would be included inside of parentheses beside the name, like so, but we just want our class to inherit from the default object class, so we won't have that. Alright, so continuing with our employee class, we first want a constructor. Python uses the special method init with 2 underscores on each side. We pass in the parameter self and then other parameters which would be important for an employee. Our employee is going to have a name and a salary, so let's add that in. Now, we want to make the name and salary as instance variables, so let's use self.name equals name and self.salary equals salary. We use self here so that we know we're talking about a specific instance of the class, meaning a single employee. Alright, now that we have that set up, let's create a method that displays the employee's information. As an extra bit, I say method here and not function because the code is going to be associated with an object, which in our case is an instance of employee. Alright, so we have def display employee with self as a parameter. Then we want to print name and salary, using self.name and self.salary as the associative values. Over here, I've used the percent operator for string formatting, where each of the %s values get replaced by the respective value in the tuple here. Alright, so let's create 2 more methods. One of them will let us give our employees a raise, and the other will print the total number of employees. So we have def give raise, which takes self and % as parameters. We want to change self.salary to plus equals self.salary times %. And that's it for that method. But how exactly would we count the number of employees? This is part of the class definition, so we can't just iterate over a list which includes different employee instances. Well, we know that the count for the number of employees gets increased by 1 each time we instantiate an employee object. But this information has to be independent of any instances of the class. Here's where we can use a class variable. Outside of any methods, we define empCount equals 0. We know that creating a new instance should increase the employee count, so inside of init we have employee.empCount plus equals 1. You can note that I used employee instead of self, so the code refers to something that is part of the class and not an instance of the class. Because this value is part of the class, it stays consistent among all of the class's instances. Okay, so now that we're counting employees correctly, we can create def display count with self and print the number of employees. For the string formatting, the D refers to a decimal, while the S from the other method's string formatting refers to a string. Alright, with that method, our entire class is done. Let's review what we've learned. We learned how we can create our class using the class statement. We learned about the init method as the constructor, as well as how to set instance and class variables. Using methods, we learned about how to get information about an instance of a class, and we learned about how we can change that information. Alright, that's it for this lecture, and I'll see you guys next time.